But, at 25 years old right now, would you say it makes sense to buy a house here in Toronto with how the market is?
As a mortgage broker, they say I'd be biased, but I'm not. I have conversations with people all the time, and I say, are you sure you really want to buy a home? Does it make sense for you? I've told people to walk away from purchases. I've told people that they should rent. But at the end of the day, it comes down to what they want. Financially is one thing, and if they want to buy a home is something else. Sometimes people want to own a home, not for the finances, just because they want to own a home. I can't tell them no. My job is to approve their mortgage. When it comes to financially speaking, should a 25-year-old buy a home? If you look at the past 20, 30 years, a home has been a great investment. People say all the time, primary home is not an investment. That's bullshit. Of course it's an investment. You buy it at one price. You pay the maintenance, the property taxes, the insurance, the mortgage, and over time, it turns into something that's much more valuable. And 90% of the wealth in Canada for the average millionaire is tied up in their primary home. Not everyone is looking to go, buy 5 to 8 properties and invest. Not everyone does that. So should a 25-year-old buy a home if they want to? Yes.
But why?
Let me finish this.
Yeah.
Can they be financially successful without buying a home? Absolutely. They can rent for half the price, take their extra disposable income, invest in the stock market, be free to leave their lease every 12 months whenever they want, and not be tied down to a property. But to say that they should do one or the other is not true. Personally speaking, I like to diversify. I would buy a property, 5% down, rent out one of the units, have my costs be very low, take my extra capital, invest in the stock market, and go from there. A lot of people that come to me, they have $150,000 and say, Aubrey, I want to put all of it on my down payment. I say, what? You're going to leave yourself with nothing? You don't have any stocks? You don't have any other investments? You don't have an emergency fund? Well, I thought my parents told me the higher the down payment, the better, to pay less interest. I want to pay my mortgage off faster.
Isn't it funny how people get so caught up in the fact that the bank makes money off of them, right? And that's the reason why and it's a lot of the older generation, it's that concept of, they don't like the idea of debt because they feel as though the bank is profiting and there's this, agenda to make them pay much longer over a longer period of time. But what they're not realizing is they're using money that's not theirs. Okay. It's the bank's, and they're leveraging that money to be able to still retain their own money to be able to use it for other purposes. Like you said, diversify, right? And diversification is extremely important if you are looking to build a portfolio and ideally at some point in time become wealthy, right? So I think that it is important for people to understand that, look, it's the bank's money that you're using to buy a home because you don't have all the money. So yeah, they're going to make a little bit of a side piece. So what? Sometimes you got to take a little bit to give it a little bit. You know what I mean? And so how much would the average 25-year-old need in terms of money to buy a property in Ontario?
Depends where they want to buy. You can buy a condo in Toronto, a 1-bedroom, for $500,000 to $600,000. Your down payment's going to be $35,000 on a $600,000 property. Closing costs $10,000. You need $45,000 all in. In terms of income, you need roughly, give or take, $100,000 to $120,000 in income. That can be between you and your spouse, employment income, so on and so forth. So
that's reported income, of course. Reported
income. But in terms of a dollar amount, to buy, you can buy a single family home in Niagara region for $500,000 with $25,000 down payment and $5,000 closing costs. You can get that $30,000 as a gift. You can use a unsecured line of credit for a portion of it.